Alright, so this is a review of the Sony 35mm f1.8 EF lens. This is currently the only Sony lens that I own. Native lens, that is. I didn't go out of my way to buy this lens. My wife makes me keep a Google Keep list of all the bits of gear that I might like, so that when it comes to birthdays, Christmases, things like that, she has a list of things she can buy without asking me outright. And this lens was on that list. I didn't put it on because I was desperately in need of it. I put it on there just because I'm starting to think that f1.8s suit me better than super wide lenses. And oh my god, this lens. It is tiny. There's the lens. There's my mobile phone. It's tiny. It weighs next to nothing, but yet it has a premium feel to it. I think it's plastic, but it has a slightly metallic feel to it. The manual focus wheel is lovely, very comfortable to use. An AF/MF switch, which I never move out of FAF because I'm just not that sort of photographer. And it has a programmable button on the side, which I haven't programmed to do anything. Though I am thinking, and I'm not even sure if my cameras can do that. I've got a Sony A7III and a Sony A7IV. If they can do this, let me know in the comments below. Although I've probably looked into it by now anyway. The only thing I can think to program these buttons for, because I never had them on any of my other cameras, is eye autofocus. Wouldn't it be good if you could program that to switch between left and right eye? So that if the camera's grabbing the wrong eye, you can press the button and switch it. That would be handy. Yeah, I'd never really thought about it before, but that would be handy. So, I haven't used this lens a massive amount since my wife bought it for me. But I have used it on a commercial job, a shoot for a gymnasium. Staged photo shoot of members doing shots, which I'm sure loads of them are currently going across your screen now. Save you looking at my face. So the lens. So yes, it's sharp. I'll go so far as to say it's extremely sharp. Chromatic aberration, haven't really noticed any. I do tend to shoot with studio lights in a controlled environment, so maybe I am not the best judge of that sort of thing, to be perfectly honest. I really love it. It's hard to quantify why. The autofocus is extremely quick on it. It is quicker than the Tamron lenses I own, certainly quicker than the Tokina, which is the slowest of all the lenses that I own, although still very fast. The autofocus in video is also very good. It's not a stabilized lens, but it's 35mm, it's a stabilized body, so really, does anybody need stabilization on a 35mm lens? And it just weighs nothing. There's nothing to it whatsoever. But it feels lovely on the A7 III, on the A7 IV, or 4 even. I haven't got an A7 IV. And if you're a prime shooter, I'm somebody who, because I shoot for money, I wanted my trinity of 3 lenses to begin with. There was no doubt about that. I want my trinity of 3 lenses to begin with. I would recommend this lens to anybody for anything. I don't think it's weather sealed. There is no gasket on the back. Focus though is entirely internal. There's no retraction or extension, either hidden or trombone style. So I would feel relatively confident using it in light rain, if I'm being honest. Even without the back gasket, as long as you try and take some sort of like common sense shelter, you should be alright. In my opinion, don't sue me if yours breaks. But if I was a dedicated landscape shooter, the lack of sealing would put me off this lens. That's the only scenario that would put me off this lens. It's absolutely fantastic. If I was more geared towards shooting primes, then I would definitely use this. If I'm doing events, I don't do weddings very often. I don't particularly like doing weddings, to be honest. I think they're too much pressure, not enough reward as well. Then, yeah, this would be a great lens to put on a second body. maybe an 85 on the first lens, or a 70-200, 70-180 on one lens, on one, and the 35 on the other. 35 is a fantastic focal length. There's virtually no distortion in this lens whatsoever. Really, I know it's pitched as a budget lens. The f1.8, there are wider aperture lenses available, which are GM, etc., which are supposedly better. This lens is fantastic value, fantastic quality, and if I only had one lens for Sony, if I had to get rid of all my lenses, I wouldn't keep this one. I would probably stick with my 28-75 because it's more versatile. But this would come a close second. It really would. It's incredibly sharp. Feels lovely in the hand. Nicely balanced. If I do street photography with my Sonys, which I haven't done since I got Sony actually, this is the lens I'll take with me. 35 is a bit wider than I usually use for street photography, but just look at that size. Stick that on a Sony A7III. Stick that in your back pocket. It's not going to fit in your back pocket, but you know, stick that in a side bag. It's unobtrusive. Autofocus is amazing. It's incredibly sharp. Very little distortion. There's nothing not to love about this lens. Really nothing not to love at all. Obviously, take my reviews with a pinch of salt. I'm a people photographer, mainly shooting studio, do the occasional event, still focused around people usually. So I'm not a dedicated street shooter. I am not a dedicated landscape photographer. So think about your own use case. Take my reviews not as reviews, but it's just an opinion piece and some examples from my own work, really. Awesome bit of glass.